Hello everyone, in my part of presentation, I'll be looking at how Homer uses disguise and dramatic irony in part 1 of the Odyssey. These two techniques might sound complicated, but once you see them in action, they are actually really interesting. Homer uses them to control how we feel about each character, and honestly, it works very well. So before getting into the text, let me quickly explain about what dramatic irony means. It's actually pretty simple. When the audience knows something that the characters don't, the gap between what we know and what they know is what makes certain scenes feel so tense or meaningful. It's something Homer comes back to again and again in the Odyssey, and part 1 has a really clear example of it. Throughout part 1, Athena, the goddess of wisdom, travels with Telemachus disguised as an older mortal companion. She gives him advice, speaks up for him with Nestor, and basically guides the whole journey without anyone realizing who she really is. The people around them just think she's a regular older man from Telemachus' crew. Nobody suspects anything. And that's exactly where the dramatic irony kicks in. We know she's a goddess, but everyone in the story is completely in the dark. Now here's where things get really interesting. The moment everything changes is when Athena suddenly drops the disguise. After a conversation with Nestor wraps up, she transforms and flies away in the form of an eagle. It's a pretty striking moment where what had seemed like a normal conversation between travelers is suddenly revealed to have been something else entirely. A goddess had been walking among them the whole time. The whole tone of the scene shifts instantly. After Athena disappears, Nestor is genuinely astonished. He grabs Telemachus by the hand and tells him that it's clear he's going to be a great hero one day because the gods are watching over him even at his young age. He recognizes the eagle as Athena right away. This reaction is really important. The characters are now catching up to what we already knew. The dramatic irony resolves, and that moment feels satisfying as a reader because we've been waiting and waiting for them to figure it out. It also tells us something bigger about how the gods work in this episode, that they don't show up with fanfare. They slip in quietly, do their work, and then leave. And you only realize what just happened after they're gone. Beyond the plot, this technique also shapes how we judge the characters themselves. Take Telemachus. The fact that Athena personally chooses to guide him already tells us he matters, even before he's done anything impressive. Then there's Nestor. He's the first one to recognize what happened, and that says a lot. It shows he's not just experienced, he genuinely respects and understands the gods. And of course, Athena herself. The eagle transformation is dramatic, but what's more interesting is everyone before it. The fact that she spent so much time disguised, working quietly behind the scenes. She didn't need to announce herself. That's a true power. So to wrap up, Homer uses disguise and dramatic irony in part 1 not just to make the story more exciting, but to give us a richer way of understanding the characters and the world they live in. Because we know Athena's true identity before anyone else does, we are watching the whole scene on a different level than the characters are. And that's what makes it stick. In the Odyssey, things are rarely what they appear to be on the surface, and the gods are never as far away as you seem. Thank you.
And lastly, we are going to explore the theme of hospitality, or xenia, through the actions of King Nestor in Pylos. The term xenia comes from the ancient Greek word xenos, which means guest or stranger, and it represents the sacred duty of hospitality. In our story, King Nestor perfectly followed this law by treating Telemachus with the highest honor and providing him with everything he needs for his journey. According to the text, Nestor shows us that hospitality is much more than just being polite. It is a sacred duty. When Telemachus and his companions, including the goddess Minerva in disguise, prepare to head back to his ship, Nestor stops them immediately. He exclaims, "Heaven and immortal gods forbid that we should leave my house to go to on board. Nestor feels it would be a disgrace to his reputation. He asks, do you think I am so poor and short of clothes? He proudly mentions that he has plenty of rugs and cloaks, and he will not permit his son of old friend Ulysses to sleep on the cold deck while he is alive. The hospitality becomes even more intense when Minerva reveals his divinity by transforming into an eagle and flying away. Nestor is astonished. To honor this divine moment, Nestor organizes a grand sacrifice. He gives very specific orders to his son. He tells one to get heifer from the plane, another to invite Telemachus' crew, and another to bring the goldsmiths. Nestor insists on gilding the horns of the heifer with gold, so that the goddess may be pleased with the offering. Finally, we see luxury of his household. Nestor opens a jar of sweet wine that had been aged for 11 years. They make drink offerings and pray. Even the sleeping arrangements are quite carefully managed. Telemachus is given the bed in the room, sharing it with Pisistratus, the only unmarried son left in the palace. Now let's move on to the next theme, which focuses on returning home. Nestor uses the story of other heroes to teach Telemachus about the dangers and duty of coming home. First, he talks about Menelaus. Their journey back from Troy starts well, but they face this tragedy in Isonium. Apollo kills Menelaus' steersman, Phrontius, who was the best at handling the vessels in rough weather. Even though Menelaus was anxious to go home, he stopped to give his comrade a proper forno. After, at the Malian Heads, Jove sent a troubled storm with waves as high as mountains. Part of the fleet was wrecked in Crete, but the crew managed to save themselves. Menelaus ended up in Egypt, where he spent 8 years wandering and gathering much gold and substances. Nestor contrasts this with the tragic return of Agamemnon. While Menelaus was away, Aegisthus plotted evil at home. He killed Agamemnon and ruled for 7 years. However, in 8th year, Orpheus returned to Athens and killed the mother of his father. On the very day Orpheus was celebrating the funeral rites of his mother and Aegisthus, Menelaus finally returned with his ship full of treasures. Through these stories of storms, murders, and revenge, we can see that returning home is not just about the distance traveled. It is about the timing and the courage to protect one's home from those who would destroy it. Nestor's counsel serves as a roadmap for Telemachus' own journey back from Ithaca. Thank you.